From young cub to roaring lion, John Terry is Chelsea's most successful ever youth product. He's the highest scoring defender in club history and our most successful captain ever. John George Terry was born on the 7th of December 1980 in Barking, Essex. He grew up on the same housing estate as former England captain Bobby Moore. Night after night, he and his brother Paul, 18 months his senior, would play until darkness forced them indoors. At the age of 10, the future England captain joined the famous youth side, Senrab FC.
John was very competitive, combative, knew what he wanted, and he was an absolute tremendous player in that team. He led by example, even as a young boy. Ledley King played centre half, the Bobby Zamora up front, Paul Konchesky was in that team, J. Lloyd Samuel, and Kemmel Izzet, who's Muzzi's younger brother. They were just out of this world. So you just go and watch them, and it was like watching a professional team.
John first came to the attentions of Chelsea through our former scout Keith Bailey.
At the time when I was scouting for Chelsea, I was going to so many games, 4 or 5 games a week around the southeast. There was a little bit of a talk by 2 or 3 scouts about 2 or 3 players, Joe Coldown in Islington and Scott Parker, Blackheath and John. But John, when I saw him after 3 or 4 games, I could see some good qualities that I was looking for. When I saw him, he was, a beautiful playmaker in centre midfield. He had been training with West Ham, but he hadn't signed. Man United were on the door, so to speak. I monitored him. We approached his mum and dad, then he signed schoolboy forms at Stamford Bridge in front of a very large crowd.
He used to pick me up from my house and take me to training and drop me home. He used to pick me up at 4 o'clock after school on a Tuesday and Thursday, take me to training, and I used to get back, I think, about 10:30 at night. He lived about an hour and a half from me, so he was getting back at like 12 o'clock at night and stuff like that. And things like that I'll never forget, and I'll never forget what Keith done for me. He's the guy who brought me to Chelsea, really.
So we had a star in the making, or so we thought.
When I was 14 and 15, I was being talked about as a very good young player and the potential to go on. And then I had a growth spurt from 15 to 16. I was like Bambi on ice. I lost all my balance, my bones were growing. I picked up a couple of injuries. I put on a little bit of weight, puppy fat as they call it. But I just become really gangly and awkward.
He didn't become a bad player over 2 years, and so it was decided to pull him in for 2 or 3 days training at Stamford Bridge, playing for the reserves. I think he's at Kingstonian against Brighton. He came on at midfield and he scored 2 goals. So in effect, I think a few people know in the club, he made his first appearance for the reserves team before the official youth team. And the proof is in the pudding. The boy was able to play at that standard, so surely he deserved a white yes and a commitment from the club.
Once he gained his scholarship, John was to live with his former under-14s coach, Bob Osborne.
I was the kit manager at the time with the first team and the reserves and the youth, and it became aware that him and Paul Nicholls didn't like their digs in Hayes, I think, and they were commuting from Barking in Essex, and it was ridiculous the amount of time it was travelling. And so through Bernie Dixon, I had a big house at the time, and they stayed in digs, and actually at one stage there were 4 scholars in digs. I didn't cook for them religiously every day. Occasionally I would, so they knew the score there. I think he liked his southern fried chicken, So I would stock up the fridge and the freezer with all this healthy stuff, but he liked southern fried chicken and baked beans.
Whilst JT was in the youth team, his coach Ted Dale would go on to make a decision that would fundamentally change the course of John's career.
I mean, I'd always felt comfortable in midfield when I first come. I think we all know the story about when the youth team was struggling for centre-half. Ted threw me in. I was man of the match. We won 3-0. And it's sort of gone on from there, really. I've never looked back from then on.
John would go on to make his debut as an 18-year-old against Aston Villa in the League Cup in October 1998. At the time, though, it was more remembered for Dan Petrescu's reaction to being substituted.
We had a bit of running, actually. I think it was one of my first training sessions with the first team, and I tackled him. He didn't like it. As I walked away, he kicked me up the backside. And Wisey went and got him round the throat and said, "Don't ever pick on the young lads. You come and speak to me or I'll sort you out. Leave the young lads alone." And said to me, "Make sure I do it again." And I kept doing it, and it was a bit edgy between me and Dan. And I think that's why he stormed off.
He was training with us. He was at the youth team, and he always tried to fight with me. And I don't know why. He didn't like the skills that I have. John is very hard, and he was hitting me in trainings. But at that time, I know that he would be a good player, but I didn't expect to be so big.
Well, the best moment I got about John Terry was coming up as a kid, kicking everyone in training as well. He didn't care about anyone. It was the same John Terry in training than in games. It was the same John Terry back in there without the experience that he is now. Very, very clever, very intelligent. People doesn't know how clever he was looking at the team, learning from players like Marcelo, like Fran Leboeuf, or like anyone who was playing at the back.
Most of John's early appearances in the first team were at right back, a position he'd never played before. Despite making that debut against Aston Villa, it would be another 2 years before he'd start to establish himself in the first team. Away to Middlesbrough in the 2000-2001 season, Claudio Ranieri chose him ahead of Frank Leboeuf.
That was a massive point in my career when I look back now. I mean, early on when I was sort of coming in, he was saying to me, you're playing well, but you just need a bit more experience and travel with a team. But sooner or later, your chance will come. And I think he had a few rows with Frank, and it was an ongoing thing. And all of a sudden, I was ahead of Frank and couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. I thought it would be another year, 2 years until that finally did arrive, because obviously him and Marcel were coming towards the end. But really surprised to get it. And as a young player, sort of thinking, or all the other players thinking what a mistake that is, felt a little bit embarrassed actually at the time that I was in front of Frank. But he comes straight up to me after the meeting and said, "Good luck today. Make sure you play well. My difference is with the manager. I want to wish you good luck." And them kind of players, Frank, Marcel, Dubes, Emo, Jessog, them kind of players were a big help to me.
JT's work ethic has always been applauded, and he believes that it's been key to his success.
We had a lot of players in the youth team, people like Rob Wollaston, who had great ability, but sort of didn't come in and give it everything every day. I'd sort of had experience because my brother was a YTS at Charlton, and he earned himself a 1-year contract and said to me, "Listen, every day you need to make an impact." And that's what I tried to do, just try to work my hardest every day. And a few players in and around the team who had more ability than myself didn't do that. And it frustrated the staff, and they didn't listen to members of staff. I tried to take on everything from Mick McGivern, the reserve manager, Ted Dale, my then youth team manager, listen to what they've got to say, try and improve my game, stay late with a few others and work on my game.
John's leadership skills developed over the years, having learned from captains such as Dennis Wise.
He was brilliant for me. I used to clean his boots as well, so he'd always get me in. JT, what's happening, how's things? Get me involved with the banter. I used to travel at a young age on away trips as well. So he used to get me up, making cups of tea as soon as I'd sit down. JT, finish, get me another one. But it was all good banter and sort of got me really involved with things, but learnt so much from him, seeing how he was on the bus, the way players looked up to him. I really wanted to sort of step into his shoes when he finally left the club.
and that's something he certainly did. In December 2001, John Terry captained the senior side for the first time against Charlton. But it was only when Marcel Desailly retired and Jose Mourinho arrived in the summer of 2004 that he was given the job full-time.
You know, I wanted to be at the very top, and I didn't sort of settle for being in the first team. I wanted to, you know, progress and become captain, and I set myself targets early on.
He's both good with both feet, and he's done unbelievable, he really has, and I'm chuffed to bits. I think I gave him his first ever £50 note, I hope so. I think I did, but no, he's done great. He really has, and bless him. I'm pleased for him.
JT has scored 66 goals so far for the Blues, more than any other defender in the club's history. But there's one in particular that he treasures most, against Barcelona in 2005, with the tie level at 4-4 on aggregate.
You just feel like every time there's a set piece, there's going to be a chance. It's Terry's header, and it's in! The captain's done it again! Unbelievable, John Terry.
In my time at the club is the best game I've been involved in, I think. And to get the winner, you know, the drama of going 3 up, absolutely dominating them early on, and couldn't believe the start we got. Then, you know, the penalty, which maybe wasn't, then the bizarre goal from Ronaldinho. But then obviously to come up with a winner, just what a night, and you know, brilliant. The dressing room after, you know, their memories in football. I mean, I've got my shirts here and stuff today of certain games, and that's one of them. But that's one I'll always look back on to say, yeah, that was a great night.
If you asked any club manager in the world, and you had to pick a centre half, I think 99 times out of 100, these fellas will pick John Terry, and it's got to tell you something.
The captain has led by example on the pitch, but off it, he's always a lively member of the dressing room too. A new captain and the start of a new era for Chelsea. Following 5 years without silverware, John Terry lifted not 1, but 2 trophies in the same season.
Congratulations all round. Chelsea Carling Cup winners 2004-2005.
Chelsea Football Club are the Premiership champions for 2005.
The win at Bolton, the celebrations after, it was incredible, running on the pitch. It was brilliant, wasn't it? I think as a supporter we'd waited so long to kind of get to that get to that moment, and listen, I think we all knew it was going to happen, but we were just so relieved when it did happen as well. After that, the celebrations was great, but all in our minds we was ready to go, and the manager even after the game said, listen, we have to go again next year, it's going to be even tougher. He kind of drilled that into us, that it was going to be a lot tougher. Teams right from the bottom were going to be right up to it, and they wasn't. He just mentally prepared us going into that next season.
John Terry lifts it again. Chelsea, the dominant force in English football.
We've been the best side over that 2 years by far. Some of the football we played early on in both the years actually got some great results.
The Blues had to wait 4 years before they won another Premier League crown in the 2009-10 season, and it was a big relief for the skipper.
Watching Man United win that for 3 years absolutely killed me. I promise, sat there so frustrated and hurt, which I'm sure the Chelsea fans and everyone involved with this club feels. I love lifting the trophy, I love winning things with this football club.
It's not only been team honours that JT has collected, he's twice been Chelsea Fans Player of the Year and has held a record for being voted into the FIFA World Team of the Year 5 years in a row. However, his fondest personal memory was winning the PFA Player of the Year award back in 2005.
Probably my best trophy personally that I've ever won. I've said, it's just one of them trophies that, you know, goal scorers or a midfielder with scoring loads of goals, making loads of runs, passes, will always win the trophy. I think the stats show that with me being, I think, the third defender to ever win it. Paul McGrath and Pallister being the other. I think so. He's sort of realising and playing really well that season. And with my goals I got that year, I think I got a bit of the headlines. I'd come on the scene with England and was doing well there as well. So I think overall people were seeing that, and to get the votes from your fellow professionals means an awful lot.
JT also became the first Chelsea player post-war to captain England, a wonderful achievement for someone who came up through the ranks at the club. And the academy certainly views him as a real role model to the younger players.
Everyone talks about John being the leader, you know, the fans, what they see on the pitch at Stamford Bridge and so on. But what they don't see is what we see every day here. That's John in training every single day. What you see at Cobham every day is leadership in terms of how he trains, how he conducts himself, the support that he gives young players. For me, that's the type of legacy and kind of inspiration for youngsters to look up to.
And of course, the club captain was there to provide support and inspiration to the under-18s ahead of their third successive FA Youth Cup triumph of 2016.
Everyone knows he's brave, some might even call him a madman. Either way, JT always puts his body on the line for the club, never more so than during the Carling Cup final against Arsenal in 2007.
John Terry has just stuck his face right in the melting pot there.
When I woke up, I was in the ambulance, you know, what's the score? And obviously as we pulled up at the hospital, we got the result that the lads had won. I was absolutely delighted. So I just decided I wanted to get myself out of the hospital as soon as I could and get back and celebrate with the lads.
You okay?
Looking back on the game, I've seen the incident a few times and still gutted I didn't score, actually. You know, them moments for me are what I live for. You know, seeing the supporters and everyone kind of winning, celebrating together. They're the memories that will stick with me forever.
Not all of JT's Chelsea memories are happy ones, however.
It's Terry against Van der Sar for European glory! And he's slipped, and it's wide.
Losing it and the disappointment of me missing the pen and not being able to win it for Chelsea, thinking, is that it? Because they don't come around kind of year after year. You know, it's probably the most difficult competition I've come across, where it's so tough. You know, so many times we've deserved to go on and win it, and we haven't. And probably the year we did, people would say we probably didn't deserve to. That's just how it is. We had a little bit of luck along the way. And I'm just delighted that, you know, not only myself and the players that we played with, but the Chelsea fans have got to celebrate and win the Champions League as well, because I just felt as though I let everyone down that night. You know, it was a difficult 3 or 4 days, and I think 4 or 5 days later we went back to play for England at Wembley. We played against America, and I'd scored and we drew 1-0, and it was just like, how have I scored there and not the penalty? It just ate me up for like, I reckon probably 2 or 3 years. It kind of just ate me up. You know, you wake up in the evening, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, but it's just nice. I can put that to bed now because, you know, not only have I done it, but the fans and the football club have done it.
Corner! It's in there! And look who it is! Didn't it have to be John Terry? Advantage Chelsea! Advantage Chelsea, the captain's done it!
You look at the Napoli game and we were losing away from home. I missed that one, I had an operation, I come back within 3 weeks. And on that night, kind of me, Lamps, Didier and Branner scored the goals, and it's like the old boys. Because at that time we was kind of getting written off, and you know, it's time to change, get rid of the old boys and this, that and the other. So we had a little bit to prove as well, but that inspired us and pushed us on even more. When you look back against, for me, one of the best sides I've ever seen, and probably will see in my lifetime in Barca, the sending off with myself as well. You know, it didn't look good, did it? You know, when I got sent off and the boys dug in, and for me that kind of stands out, because everything I've learned about Chelsea Football Club, watching, you know, being in the dressing room as a 16, 17-year-old picking up kit, you know, when we're down, seeing Wisey pick that dressing room up and kind of drive that team on when when you're losing games or whatever, the one thing I noticed about the football club was, even from them older generation of players, was, you know what, we're going to go out and give everything. Whether we're losing 3-0 or we've got nothing to play for, we would give absolutely everything. You know, because it means everything to the players, the supporters, the football club. And I think we've tried to pass that on. So the more signings and the likes of Lamps, Pete going, Didier going, eventually me, you try and leave that legacy of, you know what, this is what Chelsea Football Club's all about. And you try and pass that on to the future generations of the football club.
Up he steps. Oh, he's in the post. German Fluff's penalty. Didier Drogba with maybe his last kick of a ball for Chelsea Football Club. Buries it! Chelsea win the Champions League! The name's on the trophy now, all right. Come on, John Terry. Come on, Frank Lampard. Chelsea are the champions of Europe. Final minute. Ivanovic! It's there!
Terry also missed the final of the Europa League the following year, this time because of an ankle injury, but the captain joined his teammates to lift the trophy for Chelsea.
Really strange as well, because you go from one competition that you want to be in year after year to one at the start where, you know, speaking honestly, you probably go, God, you want to be in the Champions League, basically. But the more we went on, the more we believed that, you know, we're in it to win it and we want to go all the way. You know, just great. Again, Branner scores the goal in the last minutes, which is the way to win a final, and it was perfect. And, you know, another great year and another big trophy.
In 2013, Jose Mourinho returned to the club, much to the delight of his dedicated disciple.
A lot of talk was that I'd finished, I can't play 2 games a week, this, that and the other. And he phoned me and he said, listen, I'm coming back, I'm making the decisions. You know, come back and be the boy that I remember and give everything to me. And, you know, if you do that, you'll be in the team. If you don't, you won't play. It's on you, you know. And it just drove me. It was kind of, we was on our holidays and there was about 3 weeks ago, and every day, that was it. I was training twice a day. I was ready to come back and give everything for him, because he knew how to press my buttons. He made me believe that he was fully behind me and he was gonna play me if I showed him, you know. And for me, that was everything.
What's flicked on it? It's Zuma. Oh, that's been it is! And look who scored it! It's John Terry in front of the Tottenham fans, and Chelsea strike first at Wembley, and Chelsea are winners once more as the Capital One Cup goes the way of West London over North.
Chelsea are the champions! The best in the country by a country mile. They've wrapped up the Premier League title with 3 games to spare.
Terry capped a glorious season by being voted into the PFA Team of the Year and scoring a record-breaking 39th Premier League goal.
Here comes the corner, aimed at John Terry, who heads it into the net. What a start for the champions. It's Captain Fantastic again. It's a landmark goal for John Terry, now the all-time leading scoring defender in Premier League history.
For both player and club, 2015-16 has been far less memorable, but there's still been plenty to celebrate, including an injury-time equaliser against Everton and a 700th club appearance for the Blues.
I never thought I'd get this far, to be honest. Always believed in my own ability, but, you know, to get to 700 is a hell of a milestone. And me and Lamps always joked about it kind of coming through, and, you know, at 300, 400, will we catch Ron Harris and Peter Benetti?
Harris! Beautifully hit shot by Ron Harris.
Dalglish with a touch, but will they go in with the lead? Kennedy! And Benetti, a tremendous save.
And as a player, that's what you want to achieve. You want to kind of leave the club and remain for the 10, 20 years after that in the fans' minds.
His numbers are extraordinary. 703 appearances, 66 goals, 14 major medals, 13 of which came as captain, all across 18 seasons of service. But John Terry is not done yet.
It's been an unbelievable journey for me. As a 17, 18-year-old boy, I had aspirations of wanting to play for my country, wanting to play for Chelsea and do all these things. And when you get to their milestones, I was so hungry within myself to kind of keep pushing. And for me, when I look around as well, that's the main thing that kind of set me apart, really. I just kind of kept setting myself new targets and never kind of settled for 10 games in the first team or being in an England squad and things like that, or winning one trophy. Once you get that taste of playing in front of supporters, walking out of Stamford Bridge, for me, it's meant everything to me.